boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys. All right, welcome. Crunch Time Sports, August 19th. It's a beautiful, Tuesday evening here in Michigan. I appreciate everyone tuning in. This is a week with Booner. It continues. A solo show here today, Tuesday. All week long, we have a couple guests joining the show today. A lot of things happened in the Lions world today. A couple different news, some news. And then as well on top of that, there were some takes that were thrown around Lions Twitter. One of them I actually just heard about 15 minutes ago. So I'm pumped up to talk about that one, play it, to get the feel for the chat. Also on top of that, we have Scott Bishoff that covers the NFL draft, locked into all of that and the Detroit Lions. He's going to be joining at 8:30. And we got Shawn Murphy from Half Court. He'll be joining the show at 9 o'clock. He's actually going to be the whole second hour, essentially, up until about 9:40-ish. Shawn will be on for 2 or 3 segments. We're going to talk to Shawn about the Lions, his thoughts on the Lions season, the Pistons season. We're going to talk about a lot of different things with Shawn as well. So I'm pumped up to have Shawn here for the second hour. Let me do something real quick. Let me get this music to shut off. How about that? Is it gone? It's gone. Okay. Again, I'm producing the show while also hosting the show. So I appreciate everyone. I see a lot of people in the chat that's tuned in today. Coach Walk, Shift God, Anakin, AG's Burner, Xavier D, Etienne. Shout out to Etienne. I just saw him pop in there. Mike Reed. Who else is in here? If I missed you, I apologize. I just didn't see it. But shout out to everyone who's tuned in. Have a lot to talk about today. I'm pumped up. First things first. Let's just get this out of the way real quick. If people didn't see, I know there's been bad edge rusher news, not even edge, but defensive line news. And now all of a sudden, we get news today. I think this is big news, whether you think so or not. I think this is good news for this Detroit Lions D-line. This was a piece that I had mentioned a couple months ago when I put the tweets out that we talked about yesterday that I thought would make this defensive line one of the better D-lines in the NFL. Mekhi Wingo. Detroit Lions officially have activated defensive lineman Mekhi Wingo off of the PUP list, which is just kind of some reinforcements. And what I want to do, too, and shout out to Doc. He'll be joining us tomorrow. We'll ask him some more questions about it. But he had actually put out a full interview, a 3-minute interview with Mekhi Wingo, and he actually spoke to the media today after practice, which I do want to play for you guys. I think it's an interesting thing. Mekhi talked about the impact that he wants to make. He also talked about how he's feeling, and I think, listen, when guys come off the PUP, sometimes you question, especially a guy like Mekhi, who we haven't seen a lot from last year. You start to kind of think like, all right, what's the impact going to be? I thought coming out of the draft, Mekhi Wingo was a big piece that the Lions had brought in. I did. I thought he was going to make an impact last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt around the same time as Aleem McNeil, and you didn't get to kind of see the full thing of Mekhi. I think if he didn't end up going down the stretch, I believe that he was going to have some sort of impact in that playoff run that could have been as well. So I want to play this interview, though, for you guys. And by the way, too, let's just get active in the chat. I'm going to be using the chat a lot today. We're going to, as always, just like yesterday, we're going to be pulling things up from the chat. I want to make sure I get everyone involved. AG's Burner said, I like Mekhi's motor. I do too. I think people don't realize with Mekhi, when he was at LSU, he was like their captain, and he dominated too. And even in his senior, or I don't know if it was his senior year, but his final year at LSU, he knew he was going to the draft. He got hurt and then still decided to come back and play for the bowl game. Like, if you're talking about like a Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions type of guy, Mekhi Wingo's that. So I know there's the injury or the news with Ahmed Hassanin, who potentially is out for who knows how long, potentially for the year. And that's kind of a heartbreaker. But Mekhi Wingo, and we talked about him last year, potentially playing the edge. Some other news, too, before I play the Mekhi interview. If people didn't see this, shout out Steve Liebman in the chat. If people didn't see this, Sam Laporta, I know it was tweeted last week, hey, there's something going on with Sam Laporta. I actually had, out of any injuries throughout this offseason, I had more people actually text me and reach out about the Sam Laporta news of him being hurt. Because I think there was like a little deja vu of last season in training camp when he kind of did his hammy, and he had all these different injuries in training camp last year. And then all season, he didn't have like a Sam Laporta type of year. And everyone was like, what's going on with Sam Laporta? Then we got to find out, hey, he's been hurt all year, essentially. So Sam Laporta is back. I don't think they announced what his injury was. I can ask the doc tomorrow, and I can text the doc tonight. I think they might be in the building tomorrow with Dan, so we can see if he can ask Dan Campbell what the issue was with that. But Sam Laporta, it was reported he was back at practice today, thankfully. That's a big one to get back before the season, especially before this joint practice versus the Texans. We didn't get to see him versus the Dolphins when we were out there. We saw Shane Zylstra a lot, Brock Wright. Never got to see Sam Laporta. Never got to see Sam Laporta. So hopefully this week on Thursday, he's going to be a full go and he's going to be ready to go. Let's do this, though. Show rundown just real quick so the people understand what we're doing today. Going to talk a little bit here about Mekhi Wingo, 8:15. I do have a video here I'm going to play from a local radio host. People know him by the name of Mike Valenti, who had a take about potentially trading some players on this Detroit Lions team away. I want to address that, talk about that a little bit, see where the people in the chat feel. Scott Bishoff's joining at 8:30, 8:45. Actually, this is a fun one that I saw today. ESPN put out they put out their official preseason power rankings going into week 1. And then they also did a list of 5 NFL teams that potentially could take a step back this year. So I want to go over both of those before we have Shawn Murphy on the show at 9 o'clock. 9:15, Shawn Murphy. 9:30, Shawn Murphy. And then 9:40, I want to have a conversation with the people again. This is my show for the week. I get to talk about what I want to talk about. I would like to talk about Jared Goff at 9:40, if that's okay with the people. I would like to have a Jared Goff conversation. So we're going to do that at 9:40. We're going to have a Jared Goff conversation. 9:50, we'll do a mailbag, and that'll be the show for the day, guys. So, yeah, Xavier D said Booner's way. It's like when you go to Jersey Mike's. And by the way, Jersey Mike's, probably the best sub place out there, right? I feel like it's the best sub place. So, yeah, Booner's way. Not the Mike's way, Booner's way. Burning Issue says Booner with the gift of gab. I do have a championship of gift of gab under my belt. 2015, high school grad. Winner, gift of gab. Class of 2015. So yes, gift of gab. That was very well earned. I appreciate that. How do I hold on? Okay, there we go. I can get rid of that. I don't know what was happening there. Shawn said the gift of gab. Not doing that. Come on now, Shawn. All right, let's talk about Mekhi Wingo here, and then we'll get in at 8:15. I want to play a Mike Valenti video at 8:15 for the people. Let's play this, Mekhi Wingo. If people are wondering, listen, I think Mekhi has an impact on this football team this season. He said, and you'll hear it in this interview, he's going to be ready for week 1. He's going to be ready to go. I believe it. And I say this all the time. If you're going to be ready to go, you better be ready to produce as well. And Mekhi, shout out Mekhi. He follows the fellas. I think he watches Crunch Time. With that, I expect him to go in and make an impact this season for this Lions team, especially with guys that going down. And it feels like he's a versatile guy who you could potentially play inside, outside, wherever you need him if need be. And obviously you have a little bit of depth, but adding him just adds more to that, especially with the Aleem injury, with the Ahmed injury, the Levi O injury. I think the Levi O injury is the biggest one out of them. And you could say, hey, well, we have Mekhi Wingo to replace him. Don't know if Mekhi is going to be able to play at that level right away in year 2, but it gives you a piece to be able to plug and play. And I think with Casey Rogers, is going to have him ready to go in week 1. So this video is about 3 or 4 minutes long. Bear with it. There's a couple questions. I think it's good. I think it's informational. If people want to know what's going to go on with Mekhi Wingo over the next few weeks, how he's feeling, his mindset, this is exactly what it is right here. So here's Mekhi Wingo.
Double team, did some pass rush reps. Felt pretty good.
Can you talk about your recovery process and just how long you've been waiting for this moment?
Yeah, man, it's been a long process. Had surgery in December. The initial goal was to be back by the start of training camp. That didn't happen. I had to go back in, get something cleaned up in the knee. So that kind of pushed me back a little bit, but I've just been working my butt off, man. I'm glad to be back.
When was that cleanup?
About 2-3 months ago. Had about 2-3 months ago. So,
did you ever have an injury like that before, a knee injury?
No, I mean, I had a large injury history, but I've never dealt with anything like the knee. So it was hard just grasping what things supposed to feel like and how the recovery is supposed to go. But I'm feeling real good now.
What's your mindset right now as you now get back into it and get into the flow with this defense?
Just getting the football shape and just be a guy that the guys can trust and just get better every single day. So.
We talked to Khalil yesterday, talked kind of the same thing about football shape, how that first day back was maybe a little bit more intense than he expected. You kind of experienced the same thing today?
I mean, definitely. But today they was just running me. I didn't get my true first day out there yet. But today was a lot of running, so I'm definitely tired.
What have you made of this defense, just kind of watching from afar? How good do you think they can be this year? You guys can be this year?
I think we'll be really good. I love the way they play. Taxed out defense. Coach Shep is a great coordinator. I think it'll be a seamless transition, and we'll be good again this year.
What do you think of Casey Rogers, new defensive line coach?
I love Casey. He's very in-depth when he's coaching. He's making sure we focus on the little details to make sure we get better, and he's making sure we know everybody's job around us. So if anything, we don't really need the call from the linebackers. We'll know what's going on ourselves. So he does a great job with that.
Is that all it is for you right now? I know you didn't participate in the team, just getting back to football shape. Like, is the knee good?
Yeah, the knee is good. Just took a few double team reps over there. Felt pretty good. So now it's just me trusting and getting back out there.
You expect to be ready week 1?
Absolutely.
Just how important was this for you, just to get back and start doing some things, running around again, being part of it, being out there, getting ready for the season?
Yeah, it was very important. It's been a long progress for me. It's been 8 months since I had the surgery, so it just feels good being out here, being able to actually put pads on and get around the guys, and just trying to get better every day, trying to get ready for week 1.
Even Aleem, knee injuries around the same time. What was it like to be going through that with him too at the same time?
Always good, us just bouncing ideas off each other, going through some of the same things. So just talking about what it'll look like when we both get back and just watching film together and things of that nature. So it's been good having him there with me, but I'm ready for him to get back too.
With you and Aleem going down, they had to bring reinforcements in this offseason.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the depth look like in that room right now?
The depth, it looks amazing, honestly. We have a lot of good guys that do a lot of good things. Just me not practicing and really watching guys. We have a plethora of guys that can pass for us, guys that can stop the run. So I think it'll be really good from a depth perspective this year.
Specifically, what are your thoughts on Tyleik Williams?
Tyleik Williams, oh man, Tyleik gets better every single day. He's not a guy, he's not too flashy. He comes in, he's in his notebook, in his iPad, putting the work in, and he's trying to get better every single day. I'm not even that much of a vet, just my second year, but he asks me questions. Like, he really comes to us and asks how can he get better, and he's very good with taking coaching.
Oh, all right. There you guys heard it from Mekhi. Mekhi, listen, I don't know if you guys watched that and got the same vibe as I did. I mean, he's only in year 2. He seems confident. And this is, and at least in my opinion, that's what I expect out of Mekhi coming out of kind of a year 1 with a major injury. Like, this guy got drafted later in the NFL draft, gets injured, and then all of a sudden he's coming back. He seems confident. Like, he's like, hey, I'm ready to go. And he's been working with Aleem. He said Tyleik's asking him questions. So I think a guy like this is going to have an impact. And I want to say and Coach Walk's 100% right. What a boost he can give the Lions if he stays healthy. I was thinking the exact same thing earlier when I was watching this video. I was in my mind, this team's dealt with so many injuries on the D line, and it feels like just over and over and over, to where just having a guy like this come back, and if he could stay healthy for a whole season and just give you anything, I think it's a positive sign, especially for a guy who's a later round pick, that you're able to kind of rely on a little bit. So I'm pumped up to get him back. I'm interested to see his production. I think it's like, I wouldn't expect, if I'm just being completely honest, if people want to have an expectation for Mekhi Wingo, let's say week 1 versus the Packers, personally, I'm not going to put a lot of expectations on it. I'm going to wait though for weeks 2, week 3, week 4. Once hey, he's back in shape. Like, it's the same thing with Khalil Dorsey yesterday. Khalil Dorsey comes back, and they asked him there, like, hey, Khalil even said he was a little tired, a little out of shape, because you don't get that until you get going a little bit and get into practice. And I think it's going to take a couple weeks for him to get going here. And once he does get going, I think he's going to end up being a good piece for him. As Coach Walk said in there, a nice rotational piece. I think that's spot on right there. Nick said, I expect nothing. I guess that's go into the situation expecting nothing. If you get something, you're coming out positive. So I guess I can get that. All right, let's transition to a different topic here. The Mekhi stuff. Was there anything else breaking news today that I had in here? Let me check. I want to leave you guys nothing. That's about it. Oh, we could talk about that later, actually. NFL Top 100. We had a couple guys. We'll talk about that around 9:40, or I'll talk about it with Shawn. Few Lions players on the NFL Top 100. Couple potentially left out, which is kind of insane. I want to have another conversation about, I hate to do this because we talked about it yesterday, the Trey Hendrickson stuff. And by the way, is there a fake account in the chat? What's happening here? I'm reading the chat here. It sounds like we have got fake accounts. This is what's happening. Coach Walk, you got to investigate here. We got to figure that out. All right. I want to talk about this Trey Hendrickson thing again today, and I know people are like, "Oh, Booner, we're over this. Like, we don't need to have this conversation about Trey Hendrickson." It keeps getting brought up, and if people don't remember when the Micah Parsons stuff came out, and we had actually on our show, we had put up the trade proposal. I think it was DraftKings that might have made it, but DraftKings made a trade proposal that essentially had, I think, Brian Branch in the trade proposal, and it was like 2 firsts, Brian Branch for Micah Parsons. Just a weird trade proposal. And I just came across here. I think actually Jeff might have mentioned it. Someone sent it to me earlier today. It was not Jeff. It might have been the doc. I think it was the doc that I saw put it out. Mike Valenti, though, he gave his opinion about the Trey Hendrickson and would he give up Brian Branch. I want the people to watch this, and I want to see if people in the chat and Lions fans have the same thought process and the same feeling and would be willing to give up a player at the caliber of Brian Branch. Because essentially there are going to be players, and we've had this conversation a lot here in Detroit, especially as Lions fans, that there are a lot of very good players, and Brad Holmes has done an amazing job, one of the best in the entire NFL at drafting talent. Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, Kirby, J-Mo, Amon-Ra. I mean, we can just keep going and keep going. And I think the bottom line of all of it is we've had the conversations that, hey, someone's going to get left out when you have to pay people, right? And one of the biggest things in sports is, hey, if you know you're not going to play or pay a player, why wouldn't you try and get something for that player? Which there is a side of me, I do agree with that. If you know, hey, you're not going to pay J-Mo, why not at some point are you going to not say, like, let's look at trade offers for him, right? I do think there is a caveat for the whole thing, though. I think if your franchise is in a position to win a Super Bowl, you need those players that you might not get anything back for. And what you might get back for them is the Lombardi Trophy in the Super Bowl. So that's where I start to kind of lean on the edge of, hey, I would not give up a Brian Branch or a J-Mo while you're in a Super Bowl window. I would rather keep Brian Branch and keep J-Mo and keep some of these players in-house over the next 2 years and try and win a Super Bowl and say, hey, we got a Super Bowl out of that, rather than, hey, let's trade these guys away just so we get something, but our team might be a little weaker because of it. So that's my thought process on it. I want to play this video for you guys and see how the people feel about the way Mike Valenti approached it, and then we'll have the conversation. I'll bring up some chats about it, and I'll read a couple chats. But here's essentially Mike Valenti on the whole situation of potentially trading a Brian Branch for an edge rusher in Trey Hendrickson.
Look, Mike, on surface, I don't hesitate from your question because there are very few players that are non-starters for me. Right? Very few players are untradeable. You know, I'm not trading Penei Sewell. I'm not trading my quarterback. I'm not, you know what I mean? Those players are untouchable.
Right.
Like, I'm not trading Aiden Hutchinson. When you get down to it, you know, you have to look a little bit ahead, which is, am I going to pay Brian Branch? Jack Campbell's another guy. You know, you can say it's Jack Campbell's defense, but if the Bengals called, and mind you, the Bengals got rid of Jermaine Pratt, their team captain and a linebacker. They have a need at linebacker. If they called and asked for Jack Campbell in a 1, it's not supposed to be an easy decision based on you're acquiring an all-pro guy who led the league in sacks last year player. And you do have to pay him and pay him real money. Now, that doesn't bother me. And where there's a will, there's a way. But I think it's asking the people is more impactful, because for me, I don't get attached to players. Players are commodities to me. You don't get attached to it. There's nothing emotional there for me. I don't wear the jersey. I don't worship them. You don't want to know most of the players in pro sports. You'd be very disappointed at the reality. So for me, they're nothing more than commodities. They're production quotients. And I'm willing to trade. I'd trade my mother for a Super Bowl. So I'm not the person to talk to. Talking to the listener, they're going to have more of an emotional attachment.
Right.
For me, it's a no-brainer because ultimately there is nothing that Brian Branch will do that would remotely compare. There is nothing that the 26th pick in the draft will do that will remotely compare to the down-in, play-in, play-out effect of reinvesting in Aiden Hutchinson with Trey Hendrickson would have. I would argue to you, the only comparison for this, I have two. If you want a historical one, I'll offer you the Broncos with the Defwu line that was DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller in his prime. Super Bowl, and you couldn't block them. If you want the modern equivalent, it would be what Houston has put together with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, which, by the way, if the refs didn't bone them 7 ways to Sunday, they beat the Chiefs. As injured as they were, they Chiefs couldn't block them. So I'm a yes. I'm not flipping about it.
No.
I love Brian Branch, but yeah, I do that deal.
248-539-9797. Would you?
All right, let's get out of that there. I don't want to listen to that anymore. Shout out those guys over at 97.1. Listen, and start dropping your opinions in the chat. I'll read some of the chats with the opinions. But listen, this is pretty clear and simple for me. You're in a Super Bowl window. You don't just walk away from. I look at it like this. You don't walk away from a Brian Branch because I look at the depth at safety. Okay, let me give you guys an example. If you trade Brian Branch today for Trey Hendrickson and you give up 2 first rounds, Brian Branch and Trey Hendrickson, who's stepping in for Brian Branch? Who's your backup plan? Avonte Maddox? Is Avonte Maddox going to do anywhere near close to what Brian Branch can do? And we're talking about Brian Branch, who's potentially one of the best safeties in the NFL, if not the best, but arguably. Better than Kirby Joseph, in my opinion, because he's so more versatile. He can play nickel. He can go out play different both of your safety positions. He can do everything. Brian Branch is arguably your best defensive player outside of Aiden Hutchinson. So being like, hey, we'll just move on for Brian Branch. No big deal to bring Trey Hendrickson in. With the thought of, hey, we have to pay Trey Hendrickson as well. And we have to pay Aiden Hutchinson $40 million. That's about $80 million a year in one position. That makes a lot of sense to me. It really doesn't at all. And even if you want to say, okay, trade, like he brings up, okay, trade Jack Campbell. You're talking about a potential top 5, top 10 linebacker in his career when you already now you know that there's potential you're not going to be bringing Anzo back. Now, let's say you lost Jack Campbell today. Now you run into a position to where the depth at linebacker changes. And I'm not saying the depth is probably still there, but the level of play at the linebacker, the middle of your defense is gone. It's gone. So none of it makes sense. And it's like at the end of the day, it's like saying, okay, fans are attached to players. No, I think the attachment to players has to be you have a great roster. You have probably arguably a top 3 roster in the NFL. Just moving on with your young guys just to go in for a Trey Hendrickson that you probably won't be able to pay. And honestly, again, this conversation, I think it's the dumbest conversation in the world because you're not going to pay Trey Hendrickson and he's not going to play on a 1-year deal. He's not. It's as simple as that. Now, if you want to have the conversation about bringing an edge rusher in, why not just go all in and get a Zadarius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney, without having to give up Brian Branch? And I know Trey Hendrickson, 17 sacks, way different than a Zadarius Smith, 9 sacks. Okay, I'm not going to put Zadarius Smith on the level of Trey Hendrickson. I understand that. But Trey Hendrickson, $40 million. Zadarius Smith, $6 to $8 million. 17 sacks to 9 sacks. You already have probably a 17-sack guy on your football team. Now you want to get rid of one of the best safeties in the NFL just to add a couple more sacks when you can just go over there with Zadarius and just say, hey, instead of paying Trey $40 million and giving up one of your best, the safety and the linebacker, here's Zadarius, take $10 million for all I care, if that's what we want to do for 1 year. But I'm not moving on from Brian Branch. I'm not moving on from Jack Campbell. You got to find a way to pay those two guys, and there are going to be guys that are essentially the sacrifice of, hey, J-Mo, we can't pay you. We got to pay Brian Branch. And I'm fine with that. I personally am. Hey, Anzo, we can't pay you. We got to pay Jack Campbell. Okay, I'm cool with that. What I'm not cool with is being like, hey, let's just ship off our young talent that we've drafted just to hopefully get a guy in here that's going to cost $40 million and hope you get a Super Bowl out of it. What are we talking about there, man? I'll read some of the comments here. Let me go back. A little bit. Tom Begman said the Seahawks won the Super Bowl with having the best secondary in the NFL. Lions have the best secondary in the NFL with Brian Branch. I agree. I think if TA takes a step forward and he ends up being a top 15 corner in the NFL, you have one of the best secondaries in the NFL defenses as well. Teddy said it's sports talk radio. They say silly things to get callers. Yeah, you know what? They say silly things, but I think Mike Valenti really does believe that. That's the tough part about it. It makes no sense to say, hey, let's just move on from Brian Branch, the best top 5 safety in the NFL, and then handcuff ourselves with a contract of Trey Hendrickson at $40 million. By the way, Aiden Hutchinson at $40 million. That makes sense. When you can win a Super Bowl if you just go out there and get a guy like Zadarius Smith and you can keep Brian Branch and you don't have to move on from Brian Branch. A guy with 8 less sacks. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Nick Peace, I would like to trade Branch only if Micah is involved. You wouldn't be able to contain both Micah and Hutch. Nightmares. Listen, let me put a scenario next to you guys. What happens if you make that trade and Micah or Hutch get hurt? And now you're without Brian Branch and you're without one of those edge rushers. It's tough. Again, I could keep repeating myself. These guys cost a lot of money. This isn't Major League Baseball. You don't have unlimited money. Burning issues. You could pay Branch and Campbell top 5, 10 money for less than Hendrickson. That's my point here, Burning. That's exactly my point. Shift God, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, expecting this Zadarius stuff to happen. Listen, if the Zadarius stuff happens or not, I still would rather not give up Brian Branch or Jack Campbell for Trey Hendrickson and handcuff yourself with that contract. That's my problem. And if you don't think, too, the Purple Prince, like if you don't think Zadarius isn't a needle mover, would you rather have a package of Brian Branch and Zadarius Smith or Trey Hendrickson? That's what I want to ask the people. And drop in the chat what you think. If you had to choose right now, would you rather have the Brian Branch Zadarius package or Trey Hendrickson? I personally would like I would like to have the package deal. Bet one of the best safeties in the NFL and a complimentary edge rusher with Aiden Hutchinson. That's where I'm at with it. All right, we got a special guest joining. I'm actually going to ask him too right away about this question because I think it's such an interesting topic. Great friend of the program, covers the Lions in the NFL draft, analyst at DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Legend, Scott Bishoff. How are we doing, Scott?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a solo Booner show today, so you just got me. I'm going to questions. Jeff's on vacation. So it's just me today. Can we get right into this real quick? I was talking to the people about Trey Hendrickson. I don't know if you've seen today. Some people put out there talking about Trey Hendrickson and the Lions potentially trading Brian Branch, a couple firsts for Trey Hendrickson, and said, hey, and there are actually people in the chat who would rather have Trey Hendrickson and get rid of Brian Branch. What would you do, Scott? What would your thoughts be on that?
I mean, it'd be great to have Trey Hendrickson here, but I don't know that it would end just with Brian Branch leaving. I think other players, other pieces that we all value and like as part of the Lions, you may lose another piece. You might lose in the big contract that you'd have to pay a guy like Trey Hendrickson. You may lose J-Mo too. You might lose you may not be able to sign Jack Campbell in 2 years. You know what I mean? There's going to be some collateral, and it's not just going to be the players that you give up for Hendrickson. If it was Branch and a first round pick and whatever, it feels like you'd be just losing Branch. But then when you give Hendrickson all the money he wants and all the guaranteed money he wants, it might be others too. And I think it's not just Branch and a first round pick for Hendrickson. That would be the initial, right? The initial hit, but then somebody might come, you might lose somebody else that you don't want to lose. And I think these guys are too valuable for what they are already to push. I mean, if you're doing that, you're pushing your chips in and saying, we're going to make a 1-2 year run to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
That is not what the Lions have built and are building. They just haven't.
My point with it too, Scott, and I think that's perfect because I think a lot of people tend to forget that this is the reason Trey Hendrickson and Micah Parsons go through this. It's because they're doing this because of a contract. Like they want to get paid, and you have to. And it's not like Trey Hendrickson. It came out. It's not about the years or whatever. He said it's about the guaranteed money, like you said. So I think it's like this is a lot of money. I had said, Scott, I would rather keep Brian Branch, go give Zadarius Smith $10 million. And roll that way instead of having to get handcuffed by a contract with Trey Hendrickson, knowing you have to pay Hutch. And it doesn't make sense sometimes for people. I feel like it doesn't wrap around their heads as much.
Well, I mean, everybody can choose however they want to do it. In the end, we all feel like there's a desperate need at edge.
Yeah.
That the Lions might not feel that way about. Like you have Davenport who, we all know the Davenport story. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you bring Zadarius Smith back and he's behind Davenport, I think that makes you feel a little better about it. But it's all this, what do you do if Davenport gets hurt again? That's the kind of problem. But I do think that it does need to be. It's not just a Branch and a first round pick for Hendrickson because he's going to command significant money, and he should. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, if the Lions do something like that, I think you jump on board. In that scenario, my guess is you'd be restructuring Goff to try to find some money and extending him, many years into the future, where you're going to have trouble in the future. 5 years into the future or so. But that's in the future. It doesn't really mean all that much. So you may be able to keep everybody, but it would require some restraint on their end. And also it might make it tough to negotiate good deals for other players that you definitely want to have signed. Does anybody want to lose Gibbs?
No, I don't.
Right? I mean, I know Jack Campbell's a Mike linebacker, but you don't want to lose him. You don't want to lose Gibbs. You don't want to lose Branch. I feel like the JMO and Hutch ones are underway. Those guys are important pieces. I mean, this is the Brad Holmes problem, is that you got to sign all these studs that he's drafted.
Yep.
And it feels like bringing in Hendrickson just kind of blows up what they've done to this point. But I also understand that really puts them in a position to be a really dominant football team, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I've had a lot of different takes, Scott, the last couple months about the Brad Holmes contracts. I've been against the Aleem McNeil one, making top 3 money as a maybe outside top 10 defensive tackle. There's just been a couple, and those are the decisions Brad's got to make. I do want to kind of start here, though. Mekhi Wingo got brought back today. I don't know if you saw that, Scott.
Yeah.
I want to get your thought process on Mekhi going into this year, because he was a late round draft pick for the Lions last year, but we actually talked to you about it a lot after the draft, and it felt like he had just a very high ceiling for a guy that got drafted that late, and then his season gets cut short. Do you think this is a year where like a guy like Mekhi, especially with Levi O down and some different guys going down in that D line now, where he's going to be able to come in and actually make an impact this year? And what do you think his role will look like?
I do. I think he's more of a condensed inside kind of player, as maybe, a 4-eye kind of, a little closer to the ball than a traditional D end type, although he can do those kind of things. He's just big and thick. I do think that he is a run defender first kind of player, but in the mold of what Pascal was giving them, same kind of player. I don't know exactly where right now what shape he's in. Is he, we have 19 days or so.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with him and how they do deploy him. But I kind of see him as, as a rotational piece on the interior of their defensive line in certain situations when maybe they want to go a little smaller instead of it being, let's say it's Reeder and Tyleek, and that's big. Those are big dudes. And then 2 defensive ends. There may be times when he comes on the field and Tyleek may go off and he might play the 3-tech role or the 4-eye role where you're just getting a little more juice coming off the edge, maybe in passing situations kind of stuff. But it's nice to have him off of PUP and ready to go. I'm sure he's worked his ass off to get here, but now it's getting in football shape, and that's a whole different kind of thing. So we'll see. We need to see it.
Yeah, I want to also get your thoughts, Scott, just on the preseason as a whole, because we haven't talked to you throughout the whole preseason, and it's crazy that there's already 3 preseason games in. What are your kind of takeaways, both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, with what you've seen so far with this squad?
So I know they've been. So if we just go to defense first, they've been very vanilla. They really haven't done all that much as far as disguising coverage and scheme and all that stuff. I get the vibes around the way Kelvin Shepherd talks and some of the little things that we've seen. They're going to be a very aggressive. They're going to try to confuse and disguise pre-snap alignments and looks with what they do post-snap and mix that in with some blitzes. And I think they're going to confuse and cause some problems for some offensive lines. And then you throw in the just all the playmaking that they have in the back end. I'm expecting really big things from this defense. I think that Terrion Arnold takes a step. DJ Reed's a dog. You have 2 great safeties. Robertson is he's a really, really good player, fits perfectly here. And then you've got the front, the front 4. Obviously, when Aleem McNeil comes back, I think it's loaded up. We just got to get to that point. And linebackers are it sounds like the linebackers are just kind of flying everywhere, making plays. So as much as people around the league nationally are kind of shitting on this team, it's something that confuses me, honestly. As long as, now going to the offensive side of things, as long as Dan Campbell's a part of what's happening here on the offense, yeah, losing Ben Johnson blows, but as long as Dan Campbell's here, the real brains of the operation are still here. So yep. I think they're fine offensively. If anything, if we are to believe in what they're saying, that they're going to take some more shots down the field, I think that does nothing but great things for a guy like Jameson Williams. It could do really good things for Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he doesn't get talked about like that as a player who would get used that way, but he's such a good route runner that he could get used that way. Obviously Laporte is going to get his, and the running game should be fine. I think that the Ragnow stuff does have some of the national people rattled, but I think Mahogany's going to step in and be a really good left guard. I hope Ratledge plays, to the level that he can play at. He's going to be fine. He'll grow. He's going to grow over the next year into this role. I think he's going to play pretty well for them. And then it's just a matter of, is Glasgow at his true best position as a center? And he might be. And yeah, there is a step down from what Ragnow gave you to what Glasgow is going to give you. But it doesn't mean that the offense goes off the rails. So to me, it's, just generally, I think their defense is going to be pretty damn good. And the offense is going to pick up where it left off. And there'll be moments when they struggle a touch here or there. Maybe some interior pressure is a problem. But there's also going to be moments when they're super dynamic and explosive, and they score very quickly, and it's going to be fun to watch. As far as camp goes, it seems like Isaac Tesla has stolen the show.
For sure.
He's one of those guys that, for everything that you saw on film, he needed to show it at the next level, and he's done nothing but do that almost every opportunity he's been given. And I know we talked when he was drafted, and we talked about his hands and just how naturally he catches the ball, and that how he was already at an NFL level with some things specific to how he catches the ball, and he's just got it when it comes to that particular skill. And now we're seeing in camp him marry that up with beating players deep, using his body, understanding how to use his body to get open, to stay open, and then to get up in the air and go get the ball. It's really important for a guy like him at 6'4". And now we're seeing him win off the line of scrimmage with his release work. And he's doing all these things in situations where a lot of receivers need time to develop one set of skills before they move on to the next. And it seems like he sort of knocked them all down. Wouldn't surprise me if he surpassed Tim Patrick very quickly when regular season time comes around. And it shouldn't surprise anybody. He's kind of blowing the doors off at camp.
Yeah, that's actually a conversation we've had a lot. Like, when that time comes, is it going to be even week one before? Because Tim Patrick has been out and he just got back. And we've had that conversation, like, how early is this going to happen? Because he has been dominating.
Yeah.
And even today, there was a video that got released because they're like, hey, is he going to be playing with the ones? And he actually ran a route. I didn't know if you saw this, but on DJ Reed.
I saw
caught it. It looked like a touchdown pass or a catch too. So
yeah,
it feels like he's
dominating.
Stuff.
I mean, he's one-on-one against Reed. He beats him with the release, and then he's fast enough to run away from him. It is incredibly impressive for him to do that in year one at camp, but it's just he's done that stuff the entire camp. So he's been awesome.
I want to actually bring up too, because it's crazy to me that we've had conversations this whole offseason and preseason about the top three rookies, Tate, Isaac, and Tyleek. I think the least talked about one, Scott, is the first round draft pick in Tyleek. Because it's Tate. Everyone's talking about how good and how Tate looks like right away a starting right guard.
Yeah.
And how Isaac could potentially be your wide receiver 3. No one's really talked about what Tyleek's doing. What are your thoughts on Tyleek? Do you think he's had a good preseason? And do you think that he's going to end up having an impact, let's say week one with Aleem McNeil out?
Yeah, he will. He's going to have the opportunity to have an impact. My assumption is he will. I think it'll come. I don't want to say slow for him, but the ground game, the running game stuff, I think he's going to wreck very quickly. He's gonna blow up stuff in the backfield. He's gonna deconstruct blocks. He's gonna do all those things. He's got heavy hands. He's very smart. I mean, that's one of the things that you do keep hearing is that he's got great instincts to find the ball. That's kind of the first step. But I think he will get into a groove as far as being a run defender. He does have some athleticism to get around and, go gap to gap. He does all those things. And I think that'll take a little bit of time. But as far as what they're asking him to do, it's, it seems like they may be asking him to take on double teams. If he does, that's great because everybody around him will then be isolated, right? And singled up and in a position to go get the quarterback or go get the ball carrier. And that's kind of where some of the guys around him are most effective. Think about him on the same side of the field as Hutchinson, and Hutchinson just singled up on the tackle because Tyleek's eating the guard and the center on that side of the field, on that side of the field, right? Like there's so many ways to think about how he can impact what they do on defense without him getting sacks and tackles, right? So I think he'll do all those things. And I think he'll be a very productive member of their defensive line going, starting now as a run defender. I just don't know that we're going to see a bunch of sacks and pressures from him. He's capable of doing it. This is going to be one of those that's in the same thing for Tesla in week one. So you've destroyed camp. You've done a great job to this point of defeating everything that's been put in front of you. But now it's week one. Let's see it on an NFL field for real, week one. I think those guys are going to be up to it. I think they'll be fine.
Hey, I don't know, Scott. Are you John, right? John Macaroon, SI.
Yeah.
He actually just texted me. He wanted me to ask you a question here. Yeah, he wanted me to ask you about the quarterback class next year and if there's any quarterbacks, because I've actually thought about this too. One of my takes over the last few years, and I've said this with contending teams, like teams that are ready to win Super Bowls and kind of the longevity of it, to stay relevant. I always feel like you have to always kind of look for that next quarterback. And I know Jared Goff's not a big deal, but we've seen like the Eagles always do it, the 49ers, the Patriots when they were good, the Chiefs did it with Mahomes, finding that next quarterback. Do you think that this year there's a quarterback for the Lions? I know the Hendon Hooker thing happened and a bad taste in a lot of Lions fans' mouth from it. Is there any quarterbacks to kind of keep an eye out for Lions fans potentially in this next draft? I know it's a crazy question, but I it's something I believe in as well a little bit.
It's a good question, but the problem is that all of the ones that I'm going to tell you about are going to be gone before the Lions pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, early first round.
So
yeah,
like
that makes sense.
Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. It's Cade Klubnik from Clemson. There's Lenora Sellers from South Carolina is awesome. He needs to grow as a passer, but you know the story's great and he's got it all. He can do it all. You know, it's going to be a really good quarterback class, but the problem is if you're the Lions and you're picking 32nd, let's hope, you know, you're reaching on a player who probably didn't get drafted in round 1, and that's not necessarily a great bet to make at the quarterback position. So it's just right now it's kind of tough to project that out. I would say that you'd be looking for, if you'd want it to be a player similar to Goff. So
yeah,
wouldn't have to be a super mobile dude. Wouldn't have to be, you know, somebody with a cannon. Just a cerebral player who understands leverages and what he's looking at and how to take advantage of what defenses are giving him. I don't necessarily have a name right now for any of that, but it's a weird position for them to be in, to take a quarterback, you know, but I get it, because in a perfect world, you'd like to draft one and have one ready to go for when Goff is done. But I don't think they're quite there yet either. I think Goff has more than, 4 years left, or 3 years, or whatever it is. So it's a little early, but it's a good question. It's not a reasonable thing to be thinking about.
I have said I've been saying, hey, warning Lions fans, like, hey, be prepared the next few years. Don't be shocked, or maybe Brad won't do it, for the Lions to take a first round quarterback at some point. Like we have seen it from so many contenders. I feel like just out of nowhere, like the Packers, obviously with Brett Favre, with Aaron Rodgers, and then Rodgers to Love. Yeah, I think just if you want to stay relevant, that's something at some point.
That's a good. You just said in 12 seconds what I spoke for 5 minutes about. I should have let you do it. You'd be getting a Jordan Love type of player.
Yep.
Fans would go nuts. You spend a first round pick on a player who's not going to play, who wasn't very good in college. There's lots of questions about, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the problem with that kind of a pick, is that player would come in with lots of warts, and they're not helping you right now. So, I don't know.
It's interesting. Hey, Scott, I appreciate you hopping on. I don't want to keep you along too long tonight, but I do appreciate you coming on. I'm on a solo show, so any guests, I'm pumped up. Next week when Jeff's back, let's get you back on so we can talk some more ball.
Okay, sounds good.
I appreciate it, Scott. I'll talk to you later. See you. All right, Scott Bishoff, absolute legend, by the way. We had Scott for the draft coverage the last 2 seasons, and he kills it. He kills it. The doc here, Detroit Lions and SI. This is the doc. People that know John Macrew. Make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel. Played his video earlier. Doc, you can rewind it. Your video was amazing. He said Aiden Childs. I should block Doc just for saying that. I honestly should. And I know a lot of Lions fans are uncomfortable having the quarterback conversation. I'm big Jared Goff fan. But in the next 3 or 4 years, there's going to be a first round. In my opinion, there's going to be a quarterback in the first 2 rounds that you're going to take. Especially the one thing that I believe in is with Brad Holmes. It's like, hey, if this man falls in love with the player and a quarterback especially, he's going to bring him in. It's going to happen. It happened with Hendon Hooker. I know maybe there was some personal, family-friendly things that happened with that Hendon Hooker situation. But either way, though, if they find a quarterback that they think can be that guy, they were quick to do it with Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a really good quarterback that falls to the end of the first round in the next few years if they do it. If they do it. Ghetto Boy Juan said, Boone, we're going to ignore the Broderick showing signs of life on Saturday. Listen, I did see a tweet today that Broderick Martin was like the highest graded PFF pass rusher in preseason last week. Good for him. I'm glad the man can get a win. I don't know, Ghetto Boy Juan, if you're Broderick's burner. Good for Broderick though, man. I'm happy that Broderick was able to put something together, put some film together for when he gets cut and if another team might pick him up. That's kind of how I look at the Broderick Martin situation. I'm over. I don't know if he could have the best game in this Saturday if he wanted to. It's over. He's getting cut. Practice squad. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, practice squad. Yeah, Martin only looks good against fourth stringers. That's essentially what it was. I think he's out there just putting film together for other teams. I think that's essentially what's happening with Broderick right now. So good for him though. I just don't see him. I don't see him being in the rotation, especially with Mekhi coming back now. Josh Pascal is going to be back in my opinion, at any point in the next few weeks. It sounds like. So they're gonna have depth there. They don't need it. Detroit Lions on that side of the dock said you need to replace Hendon Hooker and next developmental guy. I'm with you, Doc. I've been saying it. I say it every year. Draft a quarterback. Get a new guy in there. Maybe every other year. You got to find your next Patrick Mahomes, your next Jordan Love, your next Jalen Hurts. Like you got to do that. That's what you got to do. What else do we have here? Oh, by the way, Tigers are playing. Scooble's pitching a gem so far. That's good to hear. Love to hear that. Shout out Scooble. I think our next guest is ready. Next guest, Shawn. Can you give me a thumbs up? Are you good over there? Absolute legend. I love this guy so much. All right, I'm gonna bring in the next guest. One of our good friends here at Crunch Time, Shawn Murphy from Half Court, one of the best in the game. Go follow him on Twitter I believe it's at Shawn Half Court. Is it not, Shawn?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Booner? Thanks for having me, man. It's good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you. I said yesterday, so I've been, if you didn't know, Jeff's on vacation right now. So I've called it the week of Boone, which the people, it seems like, listen, I didn't make it up. Someone just shot the message to me and said, hey, a week of Boone. So I said, all right, let's roll with it. I definitely made that up, actually. But
hey, you know what? We get Shark Week. It's only fair that we also get Booner Week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I feel like it's perfect, and the people wanted it. Even though a lot of the people might hate me and don't like my takes, it's what it is. So I wanted to make sure we got you on, Shawn.
Booner. They hate us because they ain't us.
Exactly. Hey, if you don't have haters, you don't have fans. As I've been told a lot by my good friend Stephen Shea at Barstool. He says that every single day when people hate him. So. Shawn, how are we doing, though? I appreciate you joining because I wanted guests this week. I know it's the week of Boone, but I wanted to bring some of our friends on to talk some ball throughout the week. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me. It's fun to be able to come on, and I don't think I've actually ever officially talked football on this pod before. So, it's fun to be able to actually come on and kind of get out of my comfort zone a little bit, so to speak. But
yeah,
also, I think this is the first time you and I have ever just solo pod together one-on-one. So this is fun, man. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you joining. I remember, so I had the Booner Sports Show back in the day, but I had you and Jeff on together.
Right. Yep.
So I've never just had you on. And I was saying yesterday to the people in the chat, I did the whole show yesterday solo. I had a guest on for about 15-ish minutes. It was quick. I was going through withdrawals because I do enjoy having a back and forth and arguing with people. I realized that yesterday.
It's one thing to like, you can turn on a mic and interact with chat. It's great and all, but when you're not doing it with someone else, it takes so much more energy. It's insane. Yeah. People don't realize it. It doesn't seem like it would, but when you feel like you have to carry the conversation the entire time and like make sure there's no dead air, it is like, it could be the most fearsome feeling, especially when you're like, I don't know what to talk about, and there's still like an hour to go.
Yeah. It's your heart drops a little bit when you get going, and you're like, okay, here we go. Especially like 2 hours of it. Wow, it was a lot. But at least I got you today. So let's do this, Shawn. This is actually the first time you've talked football on our show, and I'm actually excited to do it because I know you've actually told the boys, like, hey, fellas, I want to talk some ball. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to give you the opportunity. Let's just start with the Lions, Shawn.
Let's do it, man.
I want to get, for the people that don't know, because I think everyone in this chat and that's listening right now has heard my opinion on how I feel what's going to happen with the Lions this year, record prediction and all of that, and how they're going to obviously go from the coordinator losses to John Morton, Calvin Shepard, all of that. I want to get your thoughts on that, because it's been a long offseason, and obviously we haven't had you on to talk about it. What are your thoughts on the whole transition from the 15 wins to now, and kind of honestly in the national media, everyone kind of going against the Lions all of a sudden?
Yeah, I think the national media is kind of starting to show a little bit of, kind of like their true thoughts on the Detroit Lions over the years. And I think really just kind of this lack of trust in Dan Campbell and what the Lions have built in general. I think, there's just a sentiment that Ben Johnson was a big piece of the success. And don't get me wrong, like, I think anyone in Detroit is lying to themselves if they don't acknowledge that Ben Johnson was the best offensive coordinator of football by a wide margin when he was here. But I also think it's disingenuous to ignore the culture that was built in place by Dan Campbell and the rest of the organization, but also the wealth of talent that's on both sides of the football. You just look at the offensive line that's been in Detroit, over the course of the last few years. Frank Ragnow obviously being, such a big loss that I think even goes under discussed. Now it's great that you still have a guy like, Graham Glasgow who can slide in, and, a guy like Tate Ratledge who could potentially be a long-term answer there as a really athletic upside interior lineman. But nonetheless, that's something that you're going to feel an impact, let alone with losing two fantastic coordinators throughout the offseason. But having said that, I still think that the Lions have everything in place to be a 12-win team minimum. I think that has to be, kind of the bar and the expectation if you're a Lions fan, in my opinion, just because of the talent that you have in place, the fact that you've been able to maintain a lot of your culture. I believe they only have like two new starters on the offensive side of the ball, all things considered, which is pretty insane. Like, even though they've had a lot of turnover on the coaching side of things, I think that the fact that they've been able to maintain a lot of key, players is something that goes overlooked. And also, I think people are not really giving guys like Jared Goff enough credit for his hand in the offense and the way that things have run. And, people don't talk enough about like how great of a pre-snap operator that Jared Goff is, being able to read defenses, being able to anticipate what's going on. Like, a big piece of why Detroit's had a lot of success against like the likes of like Minnesota, who's really good at disguising their packages. Like, like they send 5, but you never really know from what direction and from where. Like, a lot of that's because Jared Goff's really good at identifying things pre-snap. And I think the big thing is going to be, how John Morton's able to carry over that offense and that success. Like, it's if you just look at his resume of the one time he's been an offensive coordinator in a vacuum, it's not encouraging. However, all the coaches that have worked with him are really high on him. He's been in the system before. And most importantly, this is by far the most talent he's ever had to work with. So I think there's no reason, especially if they're able to, keep at least like 80 to 90% of that production on the offensive side of the ball. I think, like, to be honest with you, like with Kelvin Shepard on the defensive side, I have no qualms or concerns about his ability to run the defense. I know I was listening to Scott a little bit earlier, and he's talked about kind of how vanilla some of the schemes have been, but that's kind of just preseason football in general. No one's showing their hand and really, tipping what they're really trying to do. No one's really prepping and putting that out there on preseason tape. So all that to be said, like, I think the national talk and the fear around Detroit, especially some of the talk after the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, was just, really weird to me. And I think Detroit has every reason to believe, especially, if Jared Goff can still keep his groove and keep this offense running at a high level, this team still should be the favorite in the NFC North.
I'm Shawn, and I'm right. I'm spot on with you. Matt and in the chat said, Booner, did you pay this guy to come in and reinforce all your points? I don't know if me and you were going to argue today, Shawn. I think me and you might be just lockstep with everything. I want to ask you then, because you have 12 wins. Jeff and I had the conversation a couple days ago about the floor and the ceiling. Let's say things don't go well. Where would you have this Lions floor at? Do you still think it's like, hey, their floor, no matter what, they're going to make the playoffs and win 10 games? Or do you think it's like, hey, this thing could go downhill quick? What would you have that ceiling and the floor at? Because 12 is obviously your record prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I think 12 is like 12 to me should be like the expectation. I still wouldn't be surprised if they won 13, 14 games. I just think the North is continuing to get better. Even the Bears are a team, I think, not to overreact to them, but at the very least, I don't think they're a team that you can really joke about anymore as far as you can't overlook them anymore to be certain. I think with the players in place and the culture that they have, even if they come out and struggle, I still think like 10 wins, 11 wins at the absolute minimum, like should be their absolute minimum floor. If it's anything below that, then that's reaching like catastrophic territory. Like the only way that would be justifiable to me with all the talent on this roster to be like a 9-8 win football team is if somehow they had the worst injury luck in the history of the league on both sides of the ball this year, somehow surpassing what they had last year. But even then,
back-to-back years would be tough having that.
Right, exactly. Like they would have to lose some real key pieces on offense. Jared Goff would have to miss significant time, in my opinion, in order for that to even be a conversation. But, to me, with the players in place and the talent that they have, like really like the wealth of playmakers that they have, like they have guys like a variety of guys who can go off on any given week. And they're a type of team that's built to win in a multitude of different conditions. The schedule is definitely harder this year. Yep. And, the stakes are definitely raised, but in my opinion, the pieces are still in place to still go out there and be one of the best teams in football. I think that still has to be the expectation.
I'm right there with you. I've been kind of screaming that out loud for a while, and I know there are a lot of people out there who still question it. But I think honestly, Shawn, at the end of the day, I told Jeff this a while ago because he was questioning the coordinators, and obviously national media keeps questioning the coordinators. I think it's the same thing in any sport. Like if you have the talent, I know coaching does matter a lot. It definitely does, especially in football because there's scheme. There's just so much to it. But if you just have the talent, like I could literally probably be the OC and just be like, hey, just give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs. And at some point, that guy's going to make a play. He's that good. He's a top 3 running back. Or I can get the ball to Amon-Ra, or he's going to get open, and Jared Goff's going to make a play. Like I know it sounds simple, but it's like that's when you have a good roster, that's literally all it is. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I have questions about is that level of creativity still going to be there that we've seen over the last couple of years? Not saying that we need a new trick play every single game to prove that we're still the creative Detroit Lions, but like, do you still have those things up your sleeve when your typical stuff isn't working? But also at the same time, when push comes to shove, when you have this many talented players, that there's certain things where it's like, okay, if you get Amon-Ra on a slant in the slot, there's few times he's going to lose that battle. Yeah. Like if you get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs in open space, there's not many people who are going to catch him. Like to your point, like when you have players who are as talented as the Lions have, like you don't have a lack of options or levers to pull or buttons to push. Like this isn't the situation where if you look at because I was just looking at just trying to be fair to John Morton, like what was his situation like when he was the offensive coordinator? No, he had Josh McCown as his starting quarterback for the majority of the season. Then he had Bryce Petty for the last few. Did you even know Bryce Petty was a football player before today? I sure didn't.
I've never heard of Bryce Petty before, man.
Yeah, I apologize if Bryce Petty's a fan of the show for somehow, but no.
Shout out to Josh McCown, fan of the show. Actually, we've hung out with Josh McCown. Good guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's been on 20 different teams though.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like it's just he's not brought in to be a quarterback to win you a ton of games, and so. And he's a guy that, I know John Gruden swears by. I know Sean Payton swears by. So I think this is truly going to be like a prove it opportunity for him. But I think if we're being honest, like, I think this is like really the opportunity for Jared Goff to prove that like this wasn't just a benefiting from it, working with another great offensive mind. Like, this is an opportunity for him to show like the true growth and evolution that we've seen, and put away any of the fears that fans might not want to acknowledge that they have. But I think if we're being honest, I think that's what a lot of fans are fearing is, how does that production carry over? Like, does Jared Goff still play at that high level as one of those top quarterbacks in the NFC with this new regime? Because I think every fan, like, there was like the doubt of whether or not he would be the answer long term. He was seen by everyone as the bridge quarterback. And I think, whenever there's been those moments of trial or tribulation, it's been, oh, well, are we sure about Jared Goff? Like, I think this is a year where he really kind of has to like put some of those doubts to rest.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Jared Goff too, because I think I made a bet with Jeff that I felt like this year, even with John Morton, I just think with the weapons and my whole argument with the Jared Goff thing, I had came out and said, hey, I think there is an opportunity and a path for Jared Goff to be a finalist for the MVP award again. Like last year, he was top 6, and it was because of obviously the stats that they put up and being on the quarterback of a 15-2 team. So obviously he's going to be in that position. Everyone looks to this year and goes, okay, new OC, you're also playing teams like the Ravens, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Commanders. Like, yes, it is a gauntlet. My opinion with that, Shawn, was really just more so, hey, I don't see with the guys like Amon-Ra, Jamo, Laporta, Tim Patrick, Tesla, Jameer, David, like I could keep going. The weapons that they have to where I think Jared Goff's still going to put similar numbers up. On top of that, the teams that they play, if they go out there and win some of those games versus like that, those elite teams, I just don't see a world if they win 13, let's say 13 games and Jared Goff has those numbers again, he has a better, in my opinion, a better argument to even win the MVP award because of how hard the schedule is and because there's a new OC and people look at it a little differently and go, hey, wait a second. He doesn't have Ben Johnson anymore. Why is he still putting these numbers up? Oh, he had the hardest schedule in the NFL. Why is he still putting these numbers up? It's like, oh, well, maybe one, it's probably because he's actually pretty good and he can actually play football, which people just think he's just an average quarterback when he was, in my opinion, he's not. And two, he has like some of the best weapons in the NFL. So it's like, hey, everything's set up for success. Do you think it's crazy, a fact that if you get into January and Jared Goff ends up being a finalist for the MVP again?
I don't think it's crazy at all, because I think if Jared Goff doesn't have a game where he throws 5 interceptions, I think the MVP conversation looks a lot different for Jared Goff last year.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
Well, like, I'm not saying like I think he wins MVP. I think Josh Allen was still probably the MVP of the league.
There's an argument though if he doesn't throw those 5.
Right. Like he was essentially eliminated from the conversation after that game.
Yeah.
Like people were like, well, that one game was just a rough outing from him. And I think a lot of people just, the conversation ended there. But I think to your point, if he comes out and has a similar, type of season, if he showcases that he can still be the leader of one of the top offenses in the NFL and be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. And I think the thing with Jared Goff is he's never going to like lead the like top 10 plays in Sports Center with the athletic feats that he's doing. But when he's playing at his best, he's delivering the ball in rhythm. He's delivering the ball at a high level and with high efficiency. And he's getting the ball to his playmakers with an opportunity to go out and get yards and get points. And I think that's just the big thing, is just Jared to be able to continue to have those opportunities this year. And I think the big thing is with the loss of a guy like Ragnow, who's so steady, so reliable, it to me, it's about, can this offensive line still maintain their level of production? Can they still maintain their lack of penalties? Because that's something we've seen really kill the Lions in the past, especially in the Matt Stafford years, is all the holding, false starts, all those different things. So I think the cleaner football they can play, the better that bodes for Jared Goff.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I want to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to give me, let's say 2 players, even offense and defense. Can you give me a player on the Lions that you think is going to make the biggest jump this year? And I'll give you who kind of mine. You know what I'll do actually right now? While you give me one, I'll write mine down. I want to see if we have the same ones, because I feel like there's a chance that me and you are we're lockstep so far this show. So can you give me an offense and defensive player?
I mean, offensive player, the guy that I think is poised to take the biggest jump, just from everything we're hearing out of camp and just from the change in his approach and just the maturity we've seen. It has to be Jamison Williams with his athletic prowess, everything he's shown off, and I think he took a big step last year, but the fact that he's being talked about of taking even another step this year, I think he's someone that like you have to expect. And then just the fact that they're so willing to put the keys to the kingdom of the defensive side of the ball in Jack Campbell and show like as much confidence in him as they do. I expect a big year out of him as well. And then if there's another guy that I think I really need to see produce and showcase why he was so touted when he was drafted and why when he joined the Lions, like I need to see something from Josh Pascal this season in order, for me to like see a future for him in Detroit long term. Because if you look at his stats, like, dude, he has 5 career sacks and 12 career tackles for losses. Like, if he can go out and produce that this season, his career production, like just this year, that's something that would make a big difference for this Lions team, let alone if he could do more. So those are just some guys that jump out to me. And then obviously some of the obvious ones of if we can see Laporta have a bounce back year from kind of a quiet campaign last season. And then I think really highly of Tislaw. And if he can be wide receiver 3 by the end of the year, that would be really fun to watch.
I want Tesla to be good. I really do. You're on the west. Are you on the west side of the state?
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's where Tesla is from, over that side.
Yeah,
right?
Hudsonville.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just put that together. I did not have the same guys as you. I had Christian Mahogany offensively and Terrion Arnold. I think Terrion Arnold's going to.
Arnold is another guy I think really has a chance to shine this year. I thought he played really well last year if it wasn't for all those pass interference calls. Like if he can just play, and it's a tough thing to ask of a guy like Arnold, where you're coming in and playing both really a physical brand of football at the corner position of how much man they like to play under an Aaron Glenn style system, but also like to not draw flags when you have to play that physical and still learning the game. I think that's a lot to ask. So I think the game slows down more if it aren't for Arnold this year. And I think he shows why he was thought of so highly. And I think he has a really good year.
I agree. I'm with you on that. I'm just going to start throwing more questions at you because as we're talking, I'm thinking of more things that I want to know what Shawn Murphy thinks about in these situations. You brought up Jamison Williams' big year. Are you paying Jamison Williams? Because there's a lot of contract, and I was talking about it earlier in the show, that there's going to be some contract situations that pop up. J-Mo, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. It feels like it's about to just, the waves are coming in. Shawn, if you're Brad Holmes, are you writing the contract out for Jamison Williams, or are you just saying, let's let this next 2 years play out and we'll go from there?
Yeah, I think if you truly believe in him, I think I think as we've seen historically, the earlier you can get someone in on a deal, the better off that is for your team. I think if he goes out and produces at the level that we all think he can, and there's always just been, reasons for whatever it is, whether it's fair or unfair, just reasons or things that have been keeping J-Mo off the field or really kind of keeping him from what like his true potential is, because he's an athletic beast. He's been a long ball assassin ever since coming into the league. He's someone that, Jared Goff is good at getting a long ball to J-Mo at least, every game or every other game. But if he can like truly dig deep into his route running tree and become like a much more, sound, tactician when it comes to those things on top of his athleticism, there's certain guys that are so good that you just have to bite the bullet and you have to pay him and you have to figure out some of those things later. I think if J-Mo comes out and has the type of season we think he can, even though it's going to become really difficult to keep paying those guys, because like you said, you have to draw a line at some point.
Yeah.
And I know it's tough because like as Lions fans, you want to have your cake and eat it too. But if he comes out and has the type of season we all think he can, if you can get him at like a deal, like a long-term deal that's, reasonably team friendly, I think it's something you have to seriously consider. I'd lean towards locking down J-Mo if you can, just because that's one of those guys where if you let him go to the wrong team or let him slip into the wrong hands, you could really let that one come back to bite you someday.
All right. So this question has to do with that. This one's going to be a tough one, Shawn. I wrote down 5 players here
Oh boy.
You can only keep 3. Who are you keeping? Jamison Williams,
Uh-huh.
Sam Laporta,
Mm-hmm.
Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, and Brian Branch.
Oh man.
3 out of the 5.
Oh my gosh, that is brutal. You son of a gun. I mean, well played. Absolutely bravo. All right.
You're sitting in Brad Holmes' office right now, and he's sitting there with the same scenario right now going, okay, how are we going to approach this? I'm interested to see the mind of Shawn Murphy on this one.
Based off of what we know today, I mean, to me, there's 2 guys that like, all right, you have to keep right away based off of what we know right now. Number 1, like to me, is Jahmyr Gibbs, just because of what we saw out of him last year. You know, the league best 20 plus touchdowns he had. You know, just how explosive of an athlete he is. The scary thing is he had that type of year last year, and I still don't think we've even tapped in to his full potential and the things that he can do. You know, as like a multifaceted gadget weapon. I think Brian Branch absolutely you have to keep, because he's an all-pro safety who can also play corner, who can do all sorts of different things. He's been one of our best players, you know, on both sides, you know, on either side of the ball since he's come to the team. And that's where it gets really interesting, because then it gets a lot harder, because then you have a lot of guys here where it's like Sam Laporta is about as dependable of a safety valve as you can ask for a quarterback when it comes to tight end play. He's come into the league since day one and done his job at some of the highest level at his position. But also last year, not quite the Laporta year that I think a lot of us expected, not quite the best year. Still, you know, Detroit did really well. And I think the question you can ask is, can you still get like good tight end play from someone who doesn't quite play at the level of Laporta? I think that's something I wonder. And then Jack Campbell, I know he's someone that, you know, that Detroit's really high on. He's becoming, you know, like kind of the leader of the defense. But if you look at, you know, if you just look at his football reference page, or if you just look at what he's done up to this point, it's not something that jumps out and wows you. And then like with JMO, we kind of talked about like some of those like off the field, or some of those little things that have just kept him from being his absolute best. So to me, that's not like an obvious answer. If I had to, if like gun to my head, if I had
decision has to be made right now.
A decision has to be made right now. I think I would go Laporta of those 3.
Wow. Okay.
But at the same time, that's just off of what we know today, what is proven, what they have given from a production standpoint. If we're projecting, then I definitely think if Jack Campbell reaches his potential, then he's someone you absolutely have to keep. And again, JMO, I just went on that whole diatribe. But to your point, that's why I don't envy the job that Brad Holmes has, because no, it is such a tough job, because you have so many players that are so crucial to what you want to do. And to your point, you cannot pay them all. And if thankfully we're not Cincinnati, because apparently if you're the Bengals, you can't pay any of them.
You don't pay any. You don't talk to your players. Essentially.
No, you don't even sign your draft players.
It's insane what's going on over there. I had a similar one. Gibbs and Branch, I think, are a no-brainer. And that I was actually thinking about this the other day. I think it's easier to replace wide receivers and tight ends in the NFL.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I think you could find, and I know JMO's top tier, but like we do see all the time in the NFL, other teams are constantly finding 1,000-yard receivers. Like you can get one in the second round, third round. Brad's done it 2 or 3 times now. It feels like he's gotten 1,000-yard receivers. So I think you can replace JMO, and I think it's a similar thing with Laporta. I think Laporta is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I think the fact that Brad already found him in the second round when there was tight ends like Michael Mayer in that same draft that he passed up on to go Laporta, I think Brad has a good eye, and that building has a good eye. With
that
tight
Dan
ends.
Campbell guy knows a thing or two about tight ends as well.
So I think they have a good feel for that. So I think they would be easier to replace Laporta and JMO than it would be for Jack Campbell. So Jack Campbell would be my third. He's your green dot. He's your captain. He is not now going into this year. Jack Campbell's like the heart of your defense. He is like literally the thing that keeps this defense going, the engine that keeps it going. And everyone on there trusts him, and literally everyone's came out and said, hey, this is Jack's defense now. This is no longer Anzo's defense. So I would find it hard to move on from Jack Campbell. I really would.
And I think that's fair. I think this is the year that Campbell shows why he got that green dot and why they're talking about him the way that they have. Like, I think we've seen his play continue to elevate and only get better. And he's been a guy who, you know, he doesn't jump off the page, but he's become more and more consistent. And I think this is, you know, to your point, like if he shows exactly why he's got that green dot and that defense does maintain or raise their level of play, then I think he absolutely has to be that third. So
For sure.
I have no problems with that whatsoever. That's why, that's why I don't envy it all, because I think you can make a case for really any of those players.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they're going to have to get rid of 2 of them, and maybe they can keep 4 and get rid of 1. But I just know that that group of 5, and I saw Coach Walk put it in the chat. What about Hutch? I think when you look at that group, I think Hutch is an automatic in. And then I think you look at those 5 and go, you probably have to choose 3 of them, unless you trade a Lee McNeil. I saw someone in the chat say, or get rid, because that's a $20 million contract. So it's a lot. It's a good conversation. Another convo that I actually had earlier in the show, Shawn, and I want to throw by you as well, Mike Valeni, and it's actually DraftKings put it out, a trade projection of giving up Brian Branch for a player like Trey Hendrickson, giving up a couple first for Trey Hendrickson and Brian Branch. Would you take that deal?
I listen, man, I would do a lot of things to get Trey Hendrickson. Getting rid of Brian Branch to me is that's not one of them. I understand you have a window and that you want to maximize the potential of this team. You don't know when things can fall apart, all that different stuff. But all that to be said, Brian Branch is a guy that can be one of the best at his position for like a decade plus. Like he's one of the best like players in football at what he does. And I just see him only getting better and better. Like I think it's okay to a certain extent to be like at an F them picks mentality right now, when you have so many guys that you've drafted and that have come through and that you're paying. And now, you know, you could potentially fill in the gaps with other proven players. But at the same time, you know, as like I've talked about with like, you know, like with the Pistons as well, like when you have these like salary restrictions, it's important to still be able to fill in, you know, like fill in the trenches and fill in the blanks with some of those, like, you know, those cheap salaries and those young players that you can keep in the long term. So it's a delicate balance to play, because Brad Holmes has been so good in the draft. But I think personally, I'm okay with parting with picks. A guy like Brian Branch, that'd have to be saved for like a Micah Parsons type conversation to me. And even then, I still would have a pretty hard time.
I don't know if I would do it.
Yeah.
I think Brian Branch is one of the best safeties in the. I think he's better than Kirby, and I love Kirby. I just think he does so much. It's hard, a guy like that at that level. It's just to give him up. I mean, man, you'd have to give us like Micah Parsons and I don't know who else. CeeDee Lamb. I don't know. That's probably impossible. But hey, before we do Pistons, I do want to I see you had the Michigan hat on. How are you feeling about Michigan this year? I know Bryce Underwood. They haven't named. I don't think they've named him the starter yet for week 1. I'm guessing he's gonna be. I know they have a couple other guys that were battling out, but how are we feeling?
Yeah, man. In my opinion, I think this is like last year. To me, it was easy to give Shawn Moore and in the program a pass with how many members of the staff they lost, with how many players they lost. You know, it was easy for me to accept it being a transitional year. But even then, at points, just with how weak things were from a quarterback play perspective, and just how much of a step back it was, I think was really jarring.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, although the way that they turned it around and really turned the corner and beating Ohio State the way that they did, and also beating Alabama the way that they did, even if there were a lot of guys who were sitting out, nonetheless, it was an impressive performance and a way to end the season. I think the expectations do have to be higher this year, especially with the NIL success that Michigan has had. It's tough because with Bryce Underwood, it's like, I don't think is he just turning 18 here this fall? Like, isn't he like not even fully?
He might be 18 like just now. He just turned 18 today. It's his birthday. Happy birthday to Bryce Underwood. He actually turned. I just remembered that.
And that's the crazy thing of this all with the new system of college football is we are talking about 18-year-old kids now with the expectation of having to go out and perform because now they are getting paid these crazy salaries to go and play college football. But listen, the expectation, in my opinion, has to be that they're going to go out and win like 9-10 games. And
that's what I've been saying.
Like they have to be like, if not competing for the Big Ten championship, I think they have to be on the doorstep of it. And I think they have to show that like this team is, going to be like in the playoff picture for years to come. And I go back and forth. I know a lot of people, myself included, are ready to move on from this whole Michigan scandal and everything like that. The one thing I'll say as a Michigan fan is I would really like, I think to me, my desire for another national championship has gone way up just from the standpoint of, I don't want a champion. I want another championship where there is no asterisk, there is no question mark, there is no debate on Michigan is the best team in the land, is the best team in college football, and no one questions the way that they did it. Right now, in college football, it is the Wild West in every aspect. Like there were teams paying players under the table. There were rules being broken just about every facet of the country. And this is the way that Michigan broke the rules in their way. But nonetheless, no fan wants a title or a great moment of theirs to be associated with an asterisk or something you can question. And so to me, I think that's just, if there's anything I think Michigan has to focus on going forward, is how they can get themselves back in the conversation so that they can wipe away any of that doubt that surrounds the program.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do hope, and listen, I've said this with the whole situation that just came out, obviously with the penalties. Shawn, I'm pumped up. I still think, hey, we've got a national championship, and I'm happy about it. The Michigan Wolverines are national champions. I think it would be awesome to get another one, and I think with Bryce Underwood, and especially the way Sharon's doing it right now, I think they're going to be back in a position, especially with the 12-team playoffs. Now, going through the 12-team, I think it's going to be easier to make it. Going and winning it, I think that's a different thing, because there are still programs right now that you could say, yeah, they're probably better than the Michigan Wolverines. Now, once you get into year 2 and year 3 of Bryce Underwood, they did just get the best running back in the 2026 class.
Savion Hyder.
Or Hyder. Yeah, dude, he is. I was watching his highlights today. I was not familiar with this game until today, and I started watching him, and he is very good. Like he that's going to be a great little duo there. So I think Sharon's doing a good job. Now, the fact that a year after all this stuff's going down, obviously, I like the fact finally, like, just move on from this sign stealing stuff. You just have to get over it. I think everyone does, not just Michigan fans, but like every single college fan. Just like, all right, let's just move on from it. It's old news at this point. I know it's easy coming from someone who's won it, like a Michigan fan who's won it, but it's just like, okay, let's move on. I said it on the show a couple weeks ago, Shawn. I said, if you're still using this like to go at Michigan, like, you're a loser at that point. Like, we get it. Like, it happened. It's over. They got the punishment. Now let's move on and let's play college football and let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the next part of Michigan. So I think their schedule might be one of the easier schedules in the Big Ten. I don't see a world that they don't win 10 games.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like the only 2 losses I see on their schedule is Ohio State and potentially Oklahoma. So like those are the 2 like toughest games. And the no Penn State this year, which is big. So I think they should go out there and win 10. And if you win 10, you're in that final 12, man, and you're playing good football. You can make a run at it.
Yeah, you got to just at least be competitive with Ohio State. I think that's the big thing. Like you said, go out, take care of business against Michigan State, take care of business against a lot of these other schools. It's going to be interesting to see where USC is, like that. They're kind of a program that's hard to read year to year of like kind of where they're at talent wise. It'll be interesting to see them go out and kind of have to, go out on the road and face that for the first time. But I think at Oklahoma on September 6th is going to be one hell of an indication of where this program's at and, kind of like where things really are. And, like if they want to wait until like week 3 to just like to bring Underwood in, like I guess I can understand that, but at the same time, I think when you're paying that guy that type of money, I think it's going to be hard to justify not having him start day 1.
Yeah, I hope they start him, and I hope week 2 versus Oklahoma, if they get that win, Shawn, things start to change a little bit. And I'm excited for this season. Actually, last year I kind of gave up halfway through. It was just there. I think it was the game at Washington. I was actually watching with Jeff Iafrate at B-Dubs, and they just stopped running the ball and they just kept trying to pass the ball. And it was just like they went away from what they were about last year. And I know they really didn't have any identity, but it was like, hey, all you know how to do is run. You can't pass the ball, and they lose that game, and it took them out of everything completely, which was disappointing.
I just remember watching their first game. I believe it was against Fresno State. And I just remember going, wait a second, why does Fresno State have a better quarterback than Michigan?
It's crazy.
And then literally that summer, that same quarterback transfers to Michigan. So it's like, oh, wait, so they literally did have a better quarterback than us. That's crazy.
The worst part of last season was that Texas game. The hype going into that game, and we were actually there. We had the beer sponsor, Real American Beer, RIP Hulk Hogan. But we went there for an event, and we did an event at a frat in the tailgate. It was a great time.
Yep.
But the hype before that game, like the frats that we were at and everything, the obviously students are just like, we're about to beat Texas. We're going to be the best team in the country. And me as a Michigan fan, I'm like, dude, let's go. We're slamming beers, having a good time.
Yeah.
And then the game happens, and we were at the Brown Jug, or we were somewhere watching it in a little section.
Yep.
And it might have been one of the worst hours of my life, just sitting there coming off a national championship, going in and tailgating and going all around campus, felt like the man, and then just having to sit there and just watch Texas put up 40 on us after the high of a national championship. It was one of the worst. Yeah, and Lukas put it in there. Lukas, I wasn't going to fight a bouncer, but there were definitely some words exchanged.
And hands were ready to be thrown.
Yeah, it might have been partially due to, one, we were there for a full day for a beer sponsor and doing events at tailgates and frats, but also it was probably because the Michigan game was going so bad. I was in one of the worst moods of my life. And I could tell the story. I mean, this guy Klotz, we ate so much food at this bar. We ordered so much food, and Klotz got kicked out because I think he got food poisoning from the food. I'm not going to say the bar. So he runs to the bathroom, and he doesn't tell anyone. And he's sick from the food. He threw up in the bathroom, and a bouncer was like, hey, you guys got to go. We're like, what are you talking about? He's like, your boy's throwing up in the bathroom. It's like, yeah, and you gave us bad food. He's sick from your food. And they were like, no, you guys just got to go. And I was like, what are you talking? We just paid hundreds of dollars for food, and they were kicking us out. I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing. So yeah, and Michigan was losing by 3 touchdowns. So I was just in a bad mood.
Just absolute insult to injury right there.
Oh, it was the worst. And then after we went to Insomnia Cookies and got some cookies, which was cool. And then went home.
Heals the soul. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a good time. But yeah, that was probably right before Texas kickoff was the peak of last season for me, at least.
I will say real quick, I am just excited about where college football is heading in the sense of
me too.
Like all these big matchups and the lack of these gimme games on the schedule, for lack of better terms, the fact that the first month of college football is actually enjoyable again. It just makes me excited for, just to watch that first matchup at the beginning of the season, Texas, Ohio State. I got that circled on the calendar, man. I can't freaking wait.
By the way, Shawn, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I put in today. Let me just break this down for you. I don't know. Do you bet at all, Shawn?
Here and there. Yeah.
So FanDuel, it's Dinger Tuesday, right? So you get different boosts. I had 100% boost. I did Kyle Schwarber, which his first at bat today, I think he hit a home run. Shohei Ohtani hit a home run. And I actually earlier tonight, I texted the boys and said, hey, I can cash out for 8 times the amount. Should I do it? And they go, yeah, cash out. The only person who said don't cash out was Michael Gentry. And it was a rain delay for Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees. Yeah. They just started 10 seconds ago. Aaron Judge, first at bat, hits a home run. And I didn't cash out because of Michael Gentry. Plus 3,000. Unbelievable. $10. That was unbelievable. Shawn, I'm telling you, Michael Gentry, the man he's different. He's different.
Absolute mind freak, dude.
I just saw it. I'm like, I can't believe this just hit. This is one of the most shocking moments of my life. That was unbelievable.
The only thing that would have made it more fitting is if it was Nick Castellanos. Today's the 5-year anniversary of the long drive deep into the left field.
I saw that video today. It's one of the, I think, an all-time great sports video, to be
Without
honest.
a doubt.
Hey, let's talk Pistons for a little bit while you're here today. Let's start with this. We're gonna get into season expectations. All right. By the way, maybe I had the odds wrong. It was plus 300. People are saying I won 30,000 3K. I did not win 3K or 30,000. I think it was like plus 3,900. $10. It's like 390 or something like that. I think it was 390. Okay. So people are saying 3,000. That's a lot of money. I would probably throw my computer if that happened.
Probably to rip your pants off midstream.
Take the shirt off, all of that. No, Shawn. So I'm going to get into season expectations and all that with the Pistons. I just want to start off with this. Me and you had the conversation last offseason about Tobias Harris. He was like that vet player that changed everything, and you actually called it out, and kudos to you. And me and you were going at it. I was dead wrong, and I will admit it. I was wrong, Shawn. I want to ask this year, not Tobias, but some of the moves that they made. Is there any move that was made that you're looking at it and going, hey, that's a move that's going to help this team kind of take a step forward going into this season? Because I think expectations now, it's no longer like, hey, just make the playoffs. I think it's like, hey, get a high seed and win a playoff series at this point. I think that's where we're at going into this season. So is there any move that Trajan made this offseason where it stands out to you that's like, that's the move?
Yeah, I personally, I think the moves that Trajan and crew were able to make, given the circumstances that we're facing them, I think we're pretty solid, especially, a guy like Karis LeVert, to be able to bring off the bench is someone that I think is a pretty high level creator to have as one of your go-to options off the second unit. And then to be able to get a guy like a Duncan Robinson as well, who is a reliable 3-point shooter. I do think that the loss of a Malik Beasley is something that, shouldn't be minimized. He was essentially their second unit scoring last season, but I do think Karis LeVert does bring a little bit more variety to his game as far as the things that he is able to do, as far as driving to the basket, being able to, be like a facilitator and to create for others as well. There are things that he brings to the table that I do think that are solid, but I also just think that when you look at the things that are to be that should take this team to the next level this upcoming season, I think you look at the growth of a guy like a year two for Ron Holland. I think you look at the first full off season for an Asar Thompson to really get in the lab and to get healthy and to get acclimated, build muscle. I think you look at a guy like Jaden Ivey being able to come back and be healthy and being back in the lineup as well. And I think also the fact that for a lot of guys, this is their first training camp where they're not coming in with a different coaching staff 2 years in a row. So I think that's something that's really big for this team too, is just the continuity, the positive continuity that they're able to bring in that they haven't really had before going into this season. So I think the other thing as well is with the moves that they've made, they position themselves to be a team that can make a move by this upcoming deadline. They have a trade exception that they acquired in the business that they did, where Dennis Schroeder ended up going to Sacramento. So that's something that they have in their disposal, on top of a lot of the contracts where there really isn't much money dedicated to the Pistons beyond next season. So Detroit's a team where it's going to be really interesting, because I think they're still poised to be competitive and to, take a next step. But at the same time, they're a team that could potentially get frisky and make a move this season as well.
Do you think that that's going to happen when you say make a move? Do you mean a big trade deadline move? And if so, what type of player and caliber? Because I thought going into this offseason, I know there was the expectations hey, they're not going to break the bank. Personally, though, Shawn, and I'm just being honest, and I feel like we actually had the conversation with the guy like a Naz Reid or something. I thought they were going to go after some type of at least mid-level players and go out there and make moves. And it feels like they didn't do that. And Trajan, in my opinion, I told Jeff this a lot, I felt like this was a big offseason to show what Trajan's all about, whether he wants to be in-house, kind of like a Brad Holmes style, or if he wants to hey, be in-house and as well add the talent around, which he decided essentially. It felt like, hey, we're just staying in-house and we're going to let this thing play out. So I think either way you do it, I know there's risk to it. I think it's a little more risky, in my opinion, personally, if I'm just being completely honest, to stay in-house, just because those are players you don't really like. I know Jaden Ivey, you still don't know fully what he is. You don't know what Asar, and you just don't. I think that's more so of a fact on that, where you could go out and get players that you do know what they are and what they can bring. Do you think that they still go out and get players like that? Because that was a little, in my opinion, disappointing this offseason that they didn't make a move for a guy like Naz Reid or that kind of caliber of a player.
Yeah, I think they tried to a certain extent to go out and get those types of mid-level players that you're talking about, Booner. It was tough with a guy like Naz Reid because Minnesota, they did have the ability, since it was their player, to be able to negotiate before the free agency window opened. They did try to talk to guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I think with some of the things that happened right before, the free agency window, I just think they didn't quite have the time or the ability to, really fully recruit them in the way that they, probably could have if they had that some of the information sooner. But I think I look at players like, for example, a guy who kind of fits along like the line salary wise for like the trade exception. I look at guys like a PJ Washington in Dallas, like proven role players, like solid wing players who would like add a lot of versatility and like really give, kind of like a lot of clarity to their lineups and their roles. And I do think because front offices, like they say a lot of things, but it's what they do that's really telling. And although this is the summer where like extensions are eligible for guys like Ivy and Duren, and I know like they've said like to reporters that those are guys that they want to sign long term. Like, words are one thing, actions are another. And I do think that you are going to have to see this year, like them make some real decisions on guys like Ivy and Duren. Like, I know there's been pictures circulating this week of Duren and Cade in the mountains of Colorado together, like doing some stuff together this summer. And so those are two guys, just how well they're paired on the court, but also how close they are off the court. I see Duren as a guy that like I have a very hard time not seeing be extended and being a part of this team as long as Cade wants him here, just because of how well they work together. But a Jaden Ivey, that is just still the unknown commodity. Because
do you think with Jaden Ivey, because I feel like that's actually, honestly, if you talk about this team, Shawn, because I think people know what Asar is going to be and has a chance to be. And I know it's tough coming off the injury, but we haven't seen, like, I think it's a little telling that like last year, obviously Ivy was out when the Pistons started to be very good and make those runs. So you don't know. It's like the biggest question mark, it feels like, in the franchise right now. I kind of want to get both sides of your thoughts on this, like the optimistic side and also the side where it's like, hey, there is actually a chance that the Ivy stuff doesn't work out. Is that real? Or do you think it's like, hey, no matter what, we know this is going to work?
Yeah, no, listen, I think this is like the prove it year. This is the year where you want to see, like, because on one hand, we've seen like in a lot of the areas where you want to see growth and development from Jaden Ivey, like coming into his career. I think the number one question facing Jaden Ivey, other than his ability on the defensive side of the ball, was his ability to shoot from beyond the arc. Yeah. And we've seen continuous growth from Jaden Ivey as a 3-point shooter. In particular, last season, those first 30 games, like pretty solid sample size, he was shooting really well from beyond the arc. He was a 41% 3-point shooter at about 5 attempts a game. Now, the question is that for real? Is that something that's going to translate into the next year? I think that's like a really big thing that you need to see. But also, like, I think with Jaden Ivey, I don't think anyone questions the athleticism. I don't think anyone questions the upside. I don't think anyone questions like what he can do as an offensive creator. I just think the question is he the best player to pair alongside of Cade Cunningham stylistically and schematically? And is he going to be able to work on those things that make him be like the difference between a Colin Sexton type player and a Darius Garland type player? And I think that's the question with the Jaden Ivey, because I think he has all the upside and all the talent in the world, but we've seen a lot of guards that are dynamic and athletic that just aren't quite able to piece it together just because they're not quite consistent enough or not quite efficient enough or not quite, like proficient on the defensive side of the basketball. I don't think there's a question that Ivy is the type of guy who's in the gym or is the type of guy who's working on those things, or I don't think there's a question on his coachability with those things. I mean, for goodness sakes, his mom is one of the best coaches in women's college basketball. He comes from, a family of great athletes. And so I don't question that that's something that he's cognizant of, and that's something that he's working on. And I know that the organization still thinks very highly of him, but if we don't see some of those leaps and some of that consistency towards the start of the season, and if we do still have some of those questions, to your point of, is this really the best player to have alongside of Cade, then naturally he's just one of the players where, from a trade value standpoint, salary standpoint, all those different things, he's the natural player that makes sense to position in a trade of some kind. So I still am really high on Jaden Ivey's upside and his potential, but especially now that it is Trajan Langdon's team and this isn't Troy Weaver's regime, one thing you have to be realistic about is when it's not the guy that you went out and drafted, when it's not the groceries that you went and picked, or you didn't pay for them, you're way less, you feel way less of a way about it if you have to throw it away.
Yeah, that's been my thought process. I think with the whole Trajan thing is like he has no connection really with any of these players. So that's where besides the last year's drafts or the last two drafts. So that's where I sit there and I just go like I think everything's open with this team, and that was why I thought this offseason was the biggest one yet. I know last year he did make some moves that helped this team progress forward, but this was like his first full offseason. He came in last year right before the draft, and you're like, what's going to happen with this team? So I'm interested to see over the next kind of 12 months how they approach this. I really am. It's going to be a make or break for the future, in my opinion, the next 12 months.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really telling on just like kind of where they see this current group and where they want to take it, because I think there's not really a question that Cade Cunningham is one of those guys. Like, I think the expectation this year is, we saw him be a third team All NBA guy last year. Can he be a second or even first, teetering on first team this season? I think that's the expectation for a guy like him. But also it's, you want to see those, you want to see those other guys around him excel. And I know people who don't pay attention to basketball might scoff at things like this when I say it, but I think things like the in-season tournament are really important for teams like the Pistons, because those are opportunities to get to replicate playoff reps and greater than regular season level basketball, like high stakes situations. It's a great opportunity for teams to be able to scout and see exactly what they have. And I mean, if you want to see evidence of that, the first team to ever make the finals for the play-in tournament on the East side was the Indiana Pacers. And it was because of how well they did in those play-in games that they went, or in those in-season tournament games, that they went and traded for Pascal Siakam at the deadline a month or two later. So I don't think I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Pistons made a run in that in-season tournament. The only team in their group that really would seem like a true threat to that would be the Orlando Magic, which that's going to be a game that I'm really looking forward to. But in general, I think that's a true opportunity for Detroit to see where they're at, in those reps in comparison to last year, especially now that they will have an Ivy in the lineup, because I know they said to reporters that they think if Ivy's in the lineup that they win that series. Well, you want to prove it? There's your chance.
I think that's going to be a big step for Ivy if they end up playing well when he's actually on the squad and playing, and then you get to the in-season tournament and things look good. I think that's a positive sign. Shawn, hey, it was fun having you on the last 50 minutes here. I was pumped up to have you join the show, and I had a blast talking football, college football, NFL, basketball with you in the NBA. It was a fun time. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Thanks for having me, Booner. It was a lot of fun talking a variety of different things, not just basketball. Always glad to come on the show whenever you guys want to chop it up. Always fun chopping it up with you boys. So appreciate you.
Let's go. Hey, appreciate it. Hey, we got to get you. I know we're going to be doing different things, watch parties at different bars and places. We got to get you out for one here this year for the Lions games.
No doubt, man. No doubt. If you're back in GR, I'll be there.
Yes. I appreciate it, Shawn. I appreciate you joining the show.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya. All right, Shawn Murphy. What a legend, by the way, Shawn is for joining. He joined for a whole hour. We're also, I mentioned yesterday that Doc's going to be on basically almost not the whole show, but about an hour and a half tomorrow. Thursday, I actually have 3 guests for Thursday. We have, let me pull it up here so I have the exact times because I'm actually pumped up for Thursday as well. The week of Boone hey, we're rolling this thing here. Thursday, we have Nolan Bianchi at 8:30, Dose of Dion 9:15, and then 9:30. So 2 Lions guys. And then 9:30, we actually have Anthony Broom to talk some Michigan football, talk about the situation that happened the last week with the NCAA, new recruits, the season, all of that. And Anthony Broom does a great job covering the team. I believe it's 4 on 3 as well. So he does a good job. Make sure you guys, too, drop some mailbag questions here. I'll answer some. We have about 8 minutes left. Maybe I'll go a little over here since mailbag we didn't get a full 10 minutes. So just drop some mailbag questions. I'm just juiced up too, by the way, for that home run bet. That fired me up. Coach Rock said no Micro Mike. I can reach out to Micro Mike. I actually can. I'll see maybe Friday if we can get Mike. Friday we have Chris Castellani, basically the whole second hour to talk Lions, Tigers, Michigan football as well. I think I'm going to try and see if Mike Gentry, the legend, can hop on Friday as well. So I want to make sure we can get everyone on. So I'll reach out to Micro Mike to see if he does. I also might reach out to Anthony Bellino too, because we've been covering him. We did his show a couple times on WJR. So I want to see if we can get him on here while Jeff is out. And then Saturday, obviously, there's the Lions game, which I think for the Lions game this week, I believe it might be, and I have to double check Caleb Gentry. I'm going to see with them, but I will not be here for the Lions game Saturday. That's going to be the only Lions game I missed. All right, drop some mailbag questions. Let's get some going here. Let's go, man. 7 minutes to go. I did it too today, and I'll do it tomorrow to start the show. ESPN did their power rankings for the NFL, and they had the Lions in the top 10. They fell at a certain spot. I kind of disagree with that. I'm interested to see what you guys do. We're going to actually go through the whole top 32. And then I think what I'm going to do on Friday, I think we'll do tomorrow, I'll go over ESPN's power rankings. I think Friday I'll do my own, either Thursday or Friday. I know we have a lot of guests Thursday. So Thursday, it might be hard to do my power rankings. But on Friday, I will actually be doing personal ones here. Jay Hart, Mailbag, Booner, you should reach out to Kool-Aid to talk Lions too. And also, where will y'all be for camp on Thursday? I would hit Kool-Aid up. I don't know. Again, I would love to have Flannel, Kool-Aid, Easy, Spenny. I'd love to have all the fellas. I just don't know who's able to have, I don't want to get into all of that, but I'll reach out to people and see if they want to join. Worth at least checking. And then for camp Thursday, I'll be at training camp, I believe, Thursday morning, 10:30. Should be there. I have tickets to it. It'll probably be me. I'm going to actually reach out and see if Easy wants to roll with me because I have one extra ticket with Jeff, and he will not be there. So we should be there. If you're out there, just come find us. We'll probably be sitting in the bleachers or we'll be over around by the family section. Phil said, what I'd you coach at SVSU? Did you teach? I'm guessing, what did you coach is what that's supposed to say. I coached basketball, men's basketball there. It was a great time. Loved it. 5 years of it. D-Rod, with the Pistons, do you think they are just giving it a year with everybody healthy and trying to see the growth from the playoffs? That's exactly, I think, what Trajan even has said this offseason. Trajan's literally said, we want to run it back with in-house guys to see the development and see what they're able to produce. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't agree with it. I think you should have been able to pick and choose already who you think is going to develop and is going to be good, and you should have went out and got some players. But you're essentially just waiting one more year to make that move, which, you know what, if that's the case, in my opinion, it's a year wasted with Cade Cunningham in his prime or closely getting to it, and him getting better. But what do I know? ETN, most overrated and underrated player in the NFC North. Wow, what a good question. I think underrated player in the NFC North, I would say either Jack Campbell or Terrion Arnold. I will go that. Overrated, people will hate this. The most overrated player in the NFC North is a quarterback by the name of Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love's one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks in the NFL. He's good. When he's good, he's good. But then he's just so up and down. The man's so up and down. I can't do it. Literally everyone in here is saying Jordan Love too. I'm glad we're all on the same page. When he's up there and he's playing well, the man looks good. He just can't do it. And people treat him like he's a top 10 quarterback, and he's just not. He really isn't. You have to see a full season of it. And then you get about the thing that happens with Jordan Love is it happened 2 years ago where he had a really good second half and they won those playoff games. And then everyone was like, this guy's the 5th best quarterback in the NFL. He's top 5. But then they forgot about the first half of the season where he threw 1 million picks and he couldn't win a game. His life depended on it. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? What other mailbag questions? Mailbag, Jets, Jets. I got you there. Even though you're a fake Jets fan, AG's burner. That's cool. Keep dropping some mailbag questions here. Most overrated and underrated player in the KFC East. I'm not familiar with the KFC East. Maybe the NFC East? I don't know. Overrated, I don't know. Hancho said, shout out Hancho, Logan, absolute legend. He said, are the Tigers back? I think, honestly, can we talk about this real quick? Because everyone's been so down on the Tigers, including me. Dude, the Tigers, let's look at their games. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games in their last 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 14 of their last 21 games. They're 14-7. And it feels like the sky's falling. It feels like the sky's falling. It really does. This question's interesting. Best James Bond of all time. I don't know if I can fully answer this. I don't know if I've seen every James Bond. I don't know if I have. So I don't know if I can. Daniel Craig, I've seen the Daniel Craig one. I'd have to go there. That's what I would have to say, because that's, I think, the newest one. I think it's Daniel Craig. Someone correct me, please. AG's burner. Top 3 keys to the Booner path. Lions road to a potential Super Bowl. I can't give that away yet, AG's burner, because in the next week or two, we're going to have a segment and the Booner path will be brought back. All of that's going to happen. It's all in the works right now. There will be a Booner path kind of resurrection. I know in the off season, I haven't had a lot of conversations about it. You can still go get the merch if you want at the store, the Booner Path merch, but it will be brought back. You can't just throw it out there. You can't just throw it out there. Dream car. This is a great question. Let me type something in real quick. I want to see something. It's beautiful, man. This car is beautiful. I mean, these cars are beautiful. Hold on. Let me make sure I get the right year. Oh, my gosh. I'll tell you what. 68 in the early 70s, those Shelby Mustangs. I would love one. I'll just say that. If we ever, or when we do make it a little bigger, that would be a dream car. Opinion on 14-man fantasy league. Shout out Hancho. We did a 14-man fantasy league mock draft today. I hate them. They're the worst. The worst. 14-man fantasy leagues. And in the draft rooms too, they have like 16, 17, 18 man. That's the craziest thing. Jay Hart, Jersey Mike's or Jimmy John's? Only one answer here. Jersey Mike's, hands down. Give me the Italian. Mike's way. I'll take the onions off. Just, don't need stinky breath after. Mailbag, who gets the second most sacks on the Lions? Zadarius Smith does. He'll be on the team. Phil, if a team offered you a job, would you take it? It depends. I don't know. Right now, I like what I'm doing. I want to keep growing this thing, man. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. If an NFL team said, hey, Booner, you want to be, yeah, probably. If I ever get fired, and me and Jeff had this conversation, we were golfing the other day. If we ever somehow just fizzle out of doing media, sports media, we both were like, I think we would try and get into football and like front office or do something. That would be ideal. That would be fun. IB3, shout out Isaac who had us out over at Arcadia. Booner, who was a better number 2 to Kelvin, Burleson or Tate? Probably Tate, but Nate was nice too. Yeah, Nate Burleson was nice. I actually just watched some of his highlights for like 5 minutes the other night. unbelievable. But Golden Tate, unbelievable. He was elite when he was here. Hancho said 1969 Chevelle. That's a good one too. Coach Walk, hey Booner, get me some coffee. That's like Brad Holmes. Booner, go get me some coffee. Man. All right. Hey, that'll be the show for today, Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll have the doc on. We'll see if Michael Gentry hops on. We'll have a good show tomorrow. I'm pumped up for that, to have the doc, and that should be interesting. If you guys want to see some fireworks, just me and Doc, that's going to be must-watch TV. But I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Couple more days left of solo Booner here, and then we'll have Jeff back next week. Lions play Saturday. I appreciate you guys all supporting. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see all of you guys tomorrow. Love you guys.